Okay, already in week 2 of our class. Hope that you've gotten online and been part of the discussion boards and sent me your telephone number so I can talk to you. I had a conversation with you this week that was great, and if I didn't, make sure I talk to you this next week because I'd like to at least make that personal contact with you. So one of the things I've noticed in this class, because we don't have a book, but we have a lot of links that we're looking at, I don't like ads popping up and I don't like the sound popping up when I'm trying to just read an article. So if you are um, online and you don't like that, you can right click on your tab and say mute tab, and then the sound will go away. But that's just a tip from me because I don't like that sound. I don't like the advertisements to come up. You have to do it for each link that you open, but it's a nice way to just get rid of those ads. So we're talking about the maker movement this week, and you probably think, well, I don't know anything about the maker movement, but I bet you do. If you spend any time on Pinterest, you know about the maker movement of making things yourself and trying things yourself, that do-it-yourself kind of environment. If you've ever taken a paint and sip class, that's part of the maker movement of making your own things. Cooking classes are very popular right now, or winemaking, and my kids just went to a brewery class where they learned how to make their own beer. This is all part of that maker movement of creating and exploring and trying things yourself. So what does that look like in our classrooms, and where do you find it? Every person likes to make things and develop things and tinker with stuff, and we have to remember that in education. A lot of times we have had kids do worksheets, or had them work on something that we wanted them to be part of, but not letting them be creative on their own. And so we have to spend time in our classroom to make sure that we are giving that time to create, since it's so important on how we learn things. I did just add this book to our Goodreads account, and I bought it because I thought I have not read this book. I saw it when I was looking at the maker movement this week and thought this would be great. So I did add it. If you are interested in the maker movement, it might be a good book to read. So where can you find maker spaces? Lots of libraries have them. It's a big thing in libraries. If your school library hasn't started to kind of move towards this direction, it will probably in the future. But your city libraries have them all the time. I Googled maker spaces and I found a lot of them. In fact, one I want to go visit down in the valley, where you can go and learn things like laser cutting or die cutting. And they have the tools there that you can learn how to use, and you just pay a membership fee or pay for the class and learn how to do something. Lots of times classrooms will be either the whole classroom will be a makerspace or maybe a corner of it where kids can experiment and try things. And it is actually becoming a big business. So if you wanted to start one in your class, I recommend that you think about what the goal is. So if the goal is you want kids to develop a musical instrument, what standard does that link to, and how will you link that back, so that, because some administrators, this makes them nervous. It looks like kids are just playing, which is not a bad thing either. Kids need time to play. But what are you trying to get them to learn? So think of your standard and kind of backwards map from that. But that ability to tinker and play and experiment is really important for kids. I would start cheap. Start with duct tape and cardboard and eggboard cartons and paper. You don't have to have a 3D printer to do a makerspace. You don't have to have the real high-tech equipment. We did a workshop on paper roller coasters last year, and it was just paper and tape and a marble, and kids had a great time making roller coasters. Look online because there's tons of stuff online to help you learn how to do this, and connect with other people that are doing it. We went down and visited a school down in, I think it was La Cañada, that had a maker space at their school. And one of the things they did was each grade level was developing musical instruments. And it was so interesting to see the difference between what the kindergartners were doing to what the fifth graders were doing in that same project. So really neat. But there's lots of resources that you can use online. So you're going to be reading about that this week and kind of thinking about how you could change your classroom and do different things. We're also talking about 3D printing. And I like 3D printing, but I don't think it's going to be everywhere. I think it's more a middle school, late elementary, and high school thing. I can't really see this in kindergarten because it's a little complex on how you draw the plans to do it. There's lots of math and science connections, but I think 3D printing is really going to change our lives in the future. I just don't see it in early elementary as something that we'll be spending a lot of time on. But it's kind of fun to do and make your own, keychain or whatever it is. That's really kind of a small idea of what we're doing. I think you've seen a couple of commercials where like the person makes like a hoof for their horse, and that's it. You can design whatever you want with a 3D printer. So in the future, these are some of the things that actually that they're doing right now. You can get custom shoes or clothing 3D printed for you. You can get a house. In fact, I think I have a picture. Yeah, here's a 3D printer that prints in concrete and builds houses. Already happening, already having these done. Roads and food. And you think, ew, food? I can't imagine that. But have you ever seen coffee that has like a face in it or a fancy logo in it? That was 3D printed. I was at a conference not too long ago and they were talking about 3D printing meat, which I thought, oh, that sounds awful. But the lady who was talking about it said it was great, and she thinks it will replace having cows. So interesting. We'll see how that works out. I want you to think ahead for week 3 because you have a project in Sketchfab and it is not an easy program to use. So I suggest you get in there and kind of tinker with that this week. I'm not looking for something like this for you to design, but you can do these kind of things if you're a great animator. Something very simple, but it's not an easy program. So I really do encourage you to get ahead of the game on this and build your account now and just kind of really experiment with it and look at those videos that are included. So this week you're going to do an observation of a trailblazer. Find somebody that's using technology well on your campus and at least 20 minutes go and observe them. Talk to your administrator. They know that you're working on a master's program. They'll help you get this done. Don't wait till the last minute, but make sure that you do it. There's a form that you have to use that's from ISTE that the university wants you to use. So make sure that you're using that form, and that will be due on Sunday. So continue to work on the discussion boards, and I look forward to hearing from you this week if you have any questions. Have a great week.